All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Tipple's virtual wine tasting with Elizabeth and Jeff Beaudry from Tipple's Brews and Wines, Gainesville, Florida. Let's get to the beverage, right?
Yes.
This week, we are going to be drinking the White Clay White Blend by Catena. We've talked a lot about Catena at the store and with tastings, right?
Right. But you said we haven't had this before. Right?
No,
Okay.
we have not. This is new to us.
Okay.
Right, first time that we're tasting this for the Tipples groups. Mendoza, Argentina. One maybe my favorite place to grab wines in the world. I mean, we keep going back there, but it's for a reason. The place is amazing. So if you have not already done so, go ahead and pop open that wine. I gave mine about a 1 hour chill to make sure it got down to at least 40 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Give it a nice light chill. There you go.
Have you said the grape yet?
No,
Okay.
I'm going to do that
I didn't
once
know.
we go
I
through
just
the thing.
like zoned out on you saying that or not.
Nope, I just said the white blend, and it's actually kind of an intriguing blend of grapes, so I was holding off on purpose. So let's go ahead and jump over to our first slide. Thank you.
Here we go.
All right, so here we are, the Catena White Clay White Blend. It's got some nice ratings popping on there. James Suckling 92. There was a 2 behind the 9. He did not give it a 9. It is in fact a 92. Robert Parker 90. All right. Food pairings for this, it's kind of a fun one. Zucchini souffle stuffed with goat cheese and pancetta. Miso rainbow trout with kimchi.
It sounds good.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It is really good.
Yeah. Actually, all of that sounds really good.
Yeah, I thought those pairings sounded excellent.
Yes.
And I really wanted to eat those with this. We'll have to do that. All right, so let's jump back.
Okay.
And then I'll begin talking about the varietals that we're drinking. All right, now that you guys take a little, take in the aromas, take your first sips and start thinking about things, I'll talk about the wine here. It is a blend of Semillon and Chenin Blanc.
Okay.
Right, 60% Semillon, 40% Chenin Blanc. So not varietals that we come across regularly, even on the white wine side.
Yeah.
So
we do have one hand raised. Guess who? Guess who it is?
Hi, Paul.
Hey, Jeff. The food pairings. Where do you usually get that from? Is that the wine reps that are telling you that? The winemaker that's telling you that? Is that the magazines?
All of it. I actually coalesce it. I really do. It's a combination of, I'll see what's suggested overtly online, and usually that will inspire me to go down the path. And I try to then choose something that I want to drink with it or want to eat with it, have the wine with. So
it's inspired by that, and then you decide, here's what I would do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll do a little research, and I'll look up a couple of different recipes real quick and just be like, yeah, that really does work, and that kind of a thing. So it kind of comes from, general recommendations. I try to get more specific recommendations. And then a lot of times I get inspired and I'll talk to, because, Mike at the store is a real foodie, and Jake's been in before, he's been in high-end food service for years. So they both have a great repertoire of recipes in their minds too. So we make a lot of it. We make a lot of it together. I talk to them about it. So, but
there is actually an interesting story about that. This weekend story with Jake.
Oh,
do you want to?
Yeah, see, he's later.
Like, what are you? Why?
Yeah. Well, because it's not directly about this wine.
Okay.
So
all right.
We'll cover it. We'll cover it at the
Okay.
end. All right. Just remind me to come there. It's an amusing story. We'll come back to that. So anyway, the white blend, we went through pairings, varietal content. The blend here, Semillon and Chenin Blanc, actually is a regular white blend, a traditional white blend for Argentina, but it's different from others. So normally if I'm drinking a white blend with Semillon in it, I'm thinking a Bordeaux, France white blend. But in their case, it would be It would be Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc,
Okay,
not Chenin Blanc.
okay.
Now, Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, Chenin Blanc, all French varietals.
Okay, so I can't picture like the different, like, what are you tasting that would be different between, because Sauvignon Blanc, I can like,
Mhm. So,
it's a weird word to say I can picture what it
Right.
tastes like.
no, but that's,
But,
I love that
right,
description, right?
but the Chenin Blanc, I don't. Yeah.
So, right, because we have had
Right.
much less Chenin
Exactly.
Blanc, right?
Yeah.
So Chenin Blanc is actually used for the same reason in this case. So
Mhm.
because Semillon can be a bit of it's a very rich and heavy white grape. The Sauvignon Blanc is to add acidity and keep it fresh. Well, the Chenin Blanc is the same thing,
Oh, okay,
right? So
Okay.
it's used for the same reason
okay,
with slightly different qualities.
okay. So that makes sense. Like when I was tasting it, I was thinking it feels like a heavier white than I'm used to.
Mhm.
It feels, I don't know, more rounded somehow.
Beautiful, yes.
And yeah, plus I'm getting minerality though too, which
Oh
I
my
always, think of minerality as being like lighter and
Mm.
sharper. This feels heavier and rounder.
Well, it's funny. You're throwing it all out there. Like you're
Okay,
going to be ready to
cool,
run the
yay.
show. So these are fantastic, fantastic
Next week I
observations.
will be hosting.
Mhm.
Josh's just gonna be off in
Oh,
the distance somewhere.
They've been waiting for this day. They've been waiting for this day. See, Linda? So the Chenin Blanc is going to give it, it's going to keep it, it's going to help the body from getting really heavy and waxy.
Okay, waxy.
Yeah, it can,
We haven't
like,
used that term. with
Right,
wine
no,
before.
yeah, Semillon can really become heavy,
Okay.
right?
Alright.
And the Chenin adds a lot of acidity, a lot of bright, like crisp green apple quality. They would usually call it a quince because it's that really tart apple,
Okay.
right? Whereas you're going to get like the riper tropical notes from the Semillon.
Okay.
So that richness kind of comes from Semillon, and the Chenin Blanc lightens it up, keeps it from getting too heavy, right? Because a Semillon by itself, even fermented dry, can be so fruity
Mhm.
that it almost comes across as sweet,
Okay.
right?
I was gonna ask if people do Semillons like single varietal or not.
They absolutely do,
Really?
but they're usually dessert wines when they are.
Oh, okay.
So,
Alright, that's interesting.
right. So the dessert wine of Bordeaux, France region is Sauterne.
Okay.
Sauterne is Semillon.
Oh, okay.
Late harvest, left on there to over ripen.
Mhm.
They have thin skins, so they get a kind of, it's called noble rot. It's a fungus, and what it causes is basically it causes raisination of the grapes.
Mm,
So it doesn't infect what's inside; it just pulls the water out of the grape,
Okay.
and so it raisinates the grape and intensifies it.
Okay.
And so Sauterne, because you're then going to get much less juice per pound,
Mhm.
is expensive for that reason.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Right. And delicious. So rich. All right. Alcohol content on this guy, 13 and a half.
Really?
Yeah. So a little higher. right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm used to for a white like 12 and a half.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Good call. So 7 to 8 months on lease. No oak on this guy.
Okay.
So on lease, so that's as they ferment it, some of the yeast and little particles fall out of solution to the bottom of the tank, and they leave it on top of that on purpose because it adds weight and roundness to it and helps to, so it helps to work with that Semillon to give that kind of, like you mentioned, that roundness, that weight.
Mhm.
It's not a sharp acidity, but it's a fresh, round
Yeah.
acidity. They are playing together to create that. And you mentioned how it's not hard to find the minerality on this guy.
No.
Stainless steel and concrete fermentation.
Okay.
So also fermenting concrete eggs, and that helps pull out. It doesn't just add minerality. It doesn't, it would sound like, and it would be a reasonable thought.
Mhm.
Oh, well, it tastes like minerality because it pulled minerals out of the concrete.
Yeah.
But it's more of an interplay, just like with
Okay.
oak,
Okay. And you said concrete eggs?
concrete eggs.
They don't call them barrels, they call them eggs.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
There we go.
Are they shaped like eggs?
Yes.
Well, I'm wondering because why?
Yeah, no, I mean,
Because barrels have flat sides, so you can,
Right.
although I guess you see them on their sides a lot
I'd like
too,
to see a
but-
picture of what they are using,
Uh-huh.
you know, but I couldn't find it.
Okay, all right,
I'm going with yes.
yes.
Yeah, that's why.
Oh, Linda said ours is 13.5%. Is yours not?
Well, it should be. That's what was listed in all the literature. This is 13 even on this one, so.
Yeah, that's okay. So it says
Yeah,
13.
so I had a, so what, on the literature I was reading, they must not have updated it for this vintage.
Okay.
I
So,
thought maybe y'all got the Jerry bottle. I don't know.
That's
Yeah,
what I
right.
was just gonna say.
hmm.
Don't take my lines, Paul.
So 13% on this guy.
Okay,
So, ageability on this guy, not really meant for aging, but it is a high quality wine with some nice acid and some nice alcohol. So this guy could easily go 5, maybe even stretch it to 7. But here's a thing. Depends on if you like those qualities. I like the qualities of a good white that can handle aging and goes a little too far and begins to darken and caramelize.
mhm,
I think this would be an amazing wine at 10 to 12 years, to give it a little time to do that and taste it. It's going to begin to get a little dessert wine quality, but it would be like it would still be dry. So I think that would be
dry
really
with the
fun.
dessert wine
Yeah.
quality. Okay,
So,
so maybe I drink it sooner and you drink it later.
yeah, probably. Probably.
Do
All right. That was my note about that. All right.
you want me to share?
No,
No.
first we're going to talk about the aromas because I've been talking this whole
Mhm.
time. So you guys have been, you know, sniffing, drinking. What are your thoughts on what you're getting? I've had a lot to say about what I am. You've had some
I
great
said some things too,
observations.
yeah.
So what are you
Excuse
guys
me,
thinking?
We do have a comment too. Rachel said she was a New Zealand Sauv Blanc drinker for years. This is so much nicer. Superior approach, no overly tart smack, better body and finish. And I feel like this could go with a fatty or sweet fish.
Oh yeah, good
Yeah.
call. Like, can you imagine this with snapper?
Mhm.
It'd be
Yeah,
great with snapper or a grouper piccata. By the way, that kind of thing is a lot of where I get my ideas because they just come together in my
Yeah.
head. So, all right,
Okay, so either Linda or Paul said
Stone
stone fruit,
beautiful.
apricot or peach.
Yep.
Mhm.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
definitely an apricot
Yeah.
peach both,
And then Brenda agreed
Mhm.
wholeheartedly with that.
and a floral quality to it, right? I would get like almost a
Mhm. That's exactly.
Floral notes,
what
Brenda.
Brenda John Laura, one of
There
them
you go.
just said. I think Laura types for them, so.
on the nose and on the palate. It's a bit of like maybe gardenia, a sweeter flower, you know,
Mhm.
or my favorite, tea olive. I was talking to Jerry about that the other day, you know. Very pretty. So it's a pretty wine,
Mhm.
but it's got robustness as well. So it's a
Yes.
white that can really pair with a lot of things.
Yeah, it's like a heavier.
Yeah. Honestly, because of the weight on here
Mhm.
and the fact that the acidity is nice and rounded, I think this could go well with spicier dishes too.
Okay,
Yeah. So sushi would be a no-brainer. Thai food, that kind of a thing. So if you were, for things that you would go with like a drier Riesling, you could also pair this, I would think. Because it does have that nice richness and roundness to it.
Mhm.
So, all right. Now let's head back over to the slides.
okay,
Thank you.
here you go.
Thanks. All right, let's do the label review.
So I realized that I'm not sure, I haven't watched the recordings. I know that Paul holds up the bottle every week, but I'm not sure if when we're talking, it shows the other people.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
So
You play them in the store, right?
I do sometimes. But
Okay.
yeah, I haven't looked in a little bit.
Okay.
So they throw the rating on there, which they are proud of. the rating. It does. Okay, great.
Great.
Awesome. So we got, you know, kind of up on the neck, attention
I
grabbing,
mean, if
92
you get a
points.
92, you're gonna advertise that.
I think I would, especially, you know, for a wine that's really nice and reasonably priced. You know, especially for all the quality that goes in here. Eye-catching graphics, you know, the white clay. I mean, you've got bugs in there. I don't know how people feel left and right and sideways about, you know, some Like, hey, some bugs.
Yeah, it's showing the soil.
It is showing the
Better,
soil and the
yeah.
terroir, and this is a terroir driven wine. That's where that minerality is, and
Okay,
you know, getting its
right.
quality. So, and they're proud of this. I mean, they have incredible vineyards for wine growing up there. So honestly, I think every bit they should do it. Appellation white clay. So what they're saying, so they're not just saying here we are, Mendoza, Argentina. Within that, Luján de Cuyo, all right, within Mendoza. So it's Argentinian, Mendoza, Luján de Cuyo, single appellated white clay appellation. So that's a lot of different steps that
Sure.
they're confirming along the way. Every step of that, that's showing some real specificity that is going to make you think, and would make me think anyway, all right, this is going to be a good wine. That's going to increase my confidence that I'm going to like this wine. If I'm blindly grabbing this off the shelf, which is, I didn't say that before delving in, but that is kind of the perspective I'm trying to cover when we cover the, you know, the label review, right?
If you have no one to help you.
Right.
So that wouldn't be in Tipples, but.
Right. Yeah,
if-
exactly.
If you're traveling outside of Gainesville
That's true.
and you go to some place where you have no one to help you, this is.
These are all things to
Yeah,
consider, right?
Things to consider.
High mountain vines. So high mountain vines is not a specific term, right?
Mhm.
But from what we've talked about in class, right? We all know from coming in with the discussions that high elevated wine growing tends to make better grapes. So why is that, Jeff? We will cover that. Let's cover that after I get done with the label, all right? Because that's a worthy question. So
I mean, you asked it,
I know,
so
right?
you give it 2 thumbs up.
that's right. Because it just does. Certified sustainable on the back. Very nice. They give the grapes in there, so that's kind of
Mhm.
nice. Semillon and Chenin. These other parts they were already covered, and they give a nice little write up. You know, they got the percentages on there. I love the specificity. I like
Yes.
knowing as much as possible.
Mhm.
I love that they included that. I think it's great. So, and they got a little thing about the clay and the loam, and you know the soil where it's growing. So.
So they're obviously very proud of that too, because I
Right.
mean, they put it on the front and the back.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So anyway, I'm trying to see if I'm forgetting to cover anything. But anyway, to me, covering all that specificity on the front, I'm going to expect good things. You got 92 points up there. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree with that, but that combined with the specificity on here
Mhm.
and how much they're sharing there would make me expect good things. I would feel confident buying this one. So I think they did a nice job on that.
Oh, yeah. Well, when you can be so specific with all of those things, you should, because
Right.
it helps.
Well, and I
The wine
think
buyer.
they generally do, you know,
Mhm.
if they're not being specific like that, it's because they
Mhm.
don't have it to say.
Right.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean it's a bad wine.
Doesn't mean it's a bad wine,
Right.
but,
But this just helps you in case you don't know anything about the wine.
right. Or even more, if you do know about that region, it'll help you zone right in.
Oh,
'cause then,
sure.
You know, angle in on exactly what you want to get.
Mhm.
Oh, I know this wine, I can be confident.
Right.
So. Next, please. All right, so Semillon. Semillon originated in Bordeaux, France. Most of its usage in the world traditionally is from Bordeaux, France. Was at one point the most planted grape in the world until it was kind of displaced by the popularity of others. And I think part of that is because it can go from a dry wine to a sweet wine. It's very versatile. And back along, you know, when you go back, because it began being displaced by the early 1900s. Before that, sweet wine really was the king
Okay.
of what was going on.
That's interesting that it's swung that much.
It swung a lot,
Mhm.
a lot. I mean, look at the founding fathers were drinking Madeira as their regular wine while
That
they were
means
meeting
nothing
in
to
the
me. Explain to me. what
Madeira.
that
Oh,
is.
it's like port. It's
Oh,
not
okay.
the same as port, but
Okay.
it is port that then
Okay.
is heated.
That was
So,
just a regular wine that they were drinking.
yeah. That was, to them, that was wine.
That would be
That was-
so like cloying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Wow.
So at one point, Semillon covered 90% of South African vineyards.
Wow.
Yeah, in the 1800s. And then in the 1950s, it was 75% of what they were growing in Chile. So it was all over the world.
Yeah.
And it has been very much, and it's also obviously widely used in France. It never
Mhm.
stopped there. And Australia was using it extensively. So Australia is still working with it. A lot of the other places have pulled way back. It's now less than 1% of what is grown in South Africa. From
It went from
90%
90 to less than
1%. That's how much it's fallen off the map there.
Since when? Since you said early 1900s?
It was the 1800s there.
There, it was
yeah,
the 1800s.
yeah.
And the
So it began
1950s
changing.
essentially. Okay.
Yeah. So, all right, next one. Thank you. All right, Chenin Blanc, originally from Loire Valley in France, which we'll go to the French map next, right? So you see that is in the northwestern side of France. And sorry, I got busy and those things are wrong. Ignore everything else other than the Loire Valley.
Okay, because I was reading the bottom of it going, that can't be right.
Yeah, clearly I got interrupted on this slide. So it's a high acid grape, often used in sparkling wine as well because of that acidity allows it to keep it in light. It's a lightly flavored grape, which is one reason that when it's not grown carefully, it actually is a very uninteresting grape. If it loses its acidity, it really is not that great.
There's nothing
it's
to it
just
then.
mild flavored stuff.
Okay.
Right. So it does need to be grown properly. It is the signature white wine produced in South Africa now. And it originally was and began being grown there in South Africa in the 1600s. Then it was displaced by Semillon, and then it took its crown back after Semillon fell out of favor. These are the things that were meant to be on there.
So obviously they can grow in the same environment.
Yes, yeah, they're very good at growing in the same environment, which now we have them growing in Argentina here.
Right. Would you like for me to advance?
Yes, please.
And put your shame behind you?
I know I messed up on the slide. All right, let's look at some of the flavor. So Chenin Blanc, Quince, remember I talked about it's a really tart green apple. Otherwise, you can call it Quince. Yellow apple, pear, chamomile. That's that floral kind of quality we're getting. Honey. So, not all the richness would come from the Semillon. It can provide some as well. See, the acidity is top of the chart.
Yeah.
And we would be at the highest end of the ABV, but it's got some Semillon to help it here. So, and you see the body is not particularly heavy for a white. It is not, it's a different beast, which I can see why it's going to play well with Semillon. Semillon, dry, but it can go dry all the way to sweet. Medium plus body on Semillon for sure. Tannins, none, it's white. Acidity, medium. Yeah, the other one's high. This guy's going to be more medium. And it has about the same high point on the ABV, which is interesting. So you're we're right up at the top for both. Flavors, lemon, beeswax. So I talked about that waxy quality you can get.
Right.
Yellow peach, we talked about peaches. Chamomile crosses over again. So,
and then that saline.
and then a little saline.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good at picking up and expressing that minerality. Very nice. Next one, please. All right, so Semillon comes from here and is native to Bordeaux.
Oh, really?
And then Chenin Blanc is its origin, and there's an area called Vouvray up here, which is only Chenin Blanc. Right.
That sounds very close to our last name.
I know, right? So these are the origin locations. Now they are not blended together in France.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, down here, Semillon is with Sauvignon Blanc.
Do they blend them together in other parts of the world, or is it just basically?
This is the first time I've had them blended together. Yeah.
So just Argentina.
And Argentines have been doing this for about 100 years.
Oh, okay. So they're good at it.
Yeah, for them, this is an Argentinian white blend.
Okay.
So we have a collection of thin-skinned grapes, especially the Semillon, right? The Semillon is thin-skinned, which helps it become a dessert wine because when it makes it more susceptible to that noble rot, right? So it gets on there, it's able to work through the skin, pull out that moisture very easily. But they both have, but the Semillon has an intensity of that peripheral layer with lots of flavor and a little body, right? Whereas the Chenin Blanc has a concentration of its work all on the inside, where the higher acidity would come from.
What's the percentage again of the two? The Semillon is
Oh,
60
60,
and-
40.
Okay,
Mhm.
60-40. We do have a question.
Ooh,
So let's see. Cab Franc is the parent of which grape? Semillon or Chenin Blanc?
No, that
Chenin
was
Blanc.
the mistake that was left from last week. Yeah, Cab Franc
That's
has
what I
nothing to do
thought.
with this
I
one.
was, yeah.
Yeah, that was what I was saying about I messed up on the slide because that was Cab Franc is the parent grape of Cabernet Sauvignon,
Right.
which we were drinking last week.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that was my grape slide,
It
and I didn't
does-
update everything.
It does not have a red parent.
It does not. It could. I mean, it's funny. There are red grapes with white parents, but no white grapes with red parents that I can
yeah.
think of, but that's not necessarily so. I can think of Pinot Grigio may have.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I think Pinot Noir, actually, now that I think of it. So anyway.
Okay, so Robin, when I was in Denver, I went to a wine bar called Noble Riot. And that pun is just now making sense.
Oh, there we go.
That's awesome.
I like it. That's cool. Did they specialize in dessert wine?
It was like a lot of natural and like low intervention and like women owned wineries.
Oh, okay.
Very cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun. All right.
Does sound like fun.
Next one, please.
Okay.
All right. So where are we here? The Southern Hemisphere. Right in the middle of the growing region of the Southern Hemisphere. I literally know so Mendoza because I don't even have stuff written down about Mendoza. This is all out of my head. Right. So in the Southern Hemisphere, in the middle of the Southern Hemisphere is Mendoza, Argentina, up against the Andes Mountains. Not a maritime influence that can't
Okay.
get in that far. The cooling in this case, because it does get quite warm during the day there, comes from the cool winds coming down out of the mountains every night. So you get a lot of sun during the day, a lot of warmth, very dry. It is a desert, but it
It's
cools
just a
very quickly at night,
high
like a
altitude.
desert, but the
Mhm.
high altitude in the Andes cooling it down there. But then the wonderful thing the Andes also add is rivers of snowmelt, so they can irrigate. Otherwise, this place is so dry, you literally could not grow grapes here without the snowmelt. So we're here, here's Mendoza.
But I mean, I feel like every time we're in this region, we talk about, okay, how do they irrigate? They irrigate because of the snow melt.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And they don't have to worry about late season they don't have to worry about rains ruining the late season grapes and diluting the juice with
Mhm.
water. It's not going to happen. They don't get rain. So here we are within Mendoza. All right. And right here, we're going toward the Andes, getting even higher elevation with Luján. And we can go in a little further, and Luján de Cuyo is here. And see, you see the rivers, they've got multiple options for irrigation. And there they are, absolutely gorgeous,
I mean, that is a postcard.
right?
Mhm.
It's just crazy. So, like I said, it is technically a desert. And yet, look at all the green. Here it is again. It's just, wow. So about 3,200 feet above sea level,
Okay.
up to 5,000 feet above sea level. They do
That's
have
very high.
a vineyard, not that we're drinking from tonight, but they do have vineyards that are 5,000 feet above sea level. So as they snuggle up closer to those Andes, they can get up into the foothills and they get, even higher. It's insane. So sand and stones on top of clay. White clay, the big thing with this is it looks white because of all the white stones and everything on top of it, which are from the rivers eroding from there
Mhm.
and depositing it down into the valley. They're eroding the mountains. So, and then the irrigation, which they turn off and on. Obviously, it's not there all the time. That would just be way too much water for the grapes. But in the off season, when they need to recover after all their hard work, they can give them a drink. They get a nice cold winter, and they rest really well. So the Catena winery was established in 1902.
The way it's done, it almost looks either like Aztec or Mayan, the way that building's done.
And it's based on a ziggurat,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
to pay homage to the
Mhm.
peoples of the indigenous peoples. So established in 1902, that was my last one. I jumped down several. That's okay. You're a quick study.
Sorry to get you out of order.
Established in 1902 by Nicola Catena, an Italian immigrant into Argentina. 4 generations later, still family owned and run.
That's fantastic.
Right. Currently run by Nicolas Catena and his daughter, Laura. Nicola, one of his things, and then moving on to Nicholas, was realizing that if they moved the vineyards out of the lower valley area and went up to the higher altitudes, they got better quality grapes.
Okay.
So he was instrumental in kind of moving Argentinian wines toward higher quality and not just quantity, because they can easily grow a lot of grapes.
Sure.
And you could have a lot, and there's still plenty today of inexpensive Argentinian wine that's modest quality, is fine, right? But their stuff is an entirely different level. So I thought maybe the person who could say it best would be Laura Catena.
Okay, we have a video.
We do.
My family has been making wine in Argentina for over 100 years. My great-grandfather came from Italy at the turn of the century with the vision of planting a vineyard of his own. And what he loved about Argentina was the open land, the abundance of food, of everything. My father, Nicolás Catena Zapata, is known as Argentina's high-altitude Malbec pioneer. He revolutionized Argentine winemaking by planting where no one else dared to plant. In the 1980s, my father went to California and saw that there was an extraordinary revolution going on in the Napa Valley, that these Californians had decided that they would make wines that would stand with the best of Europe.
That passion for quality was my inspiration.
You couldn't just adapt what is done in Bordeaux, what is done in Tuscany, what is done in Napa, California to Mendoza. We had to start from zero. My father realized that in order to make wines with concentration and ageability, he needed to plant at higher altitudes where it was cooler and there was more sunlight intensity. And that's why he started planting higher and higher. At almost 5,000 feet, the Adriana Vineyard is the pinnacle of high altitude viticulture. Nobody thought that a vine would ripen at extreme high altitudes here. Not a Chardonnay, not a Cabernet Sauvignon, not a Malbec, but it did. I was actually trained as a doctor. I thought I was going to spend my life drinking the family's wines, not making them. Because Mendoza is so different than any other wine region in the world, the research really took at least a decade before we had the first commercially available wine. The Catena Institute is collaborating with other wineries to define the regions of Mendoza and to create a sustainability code for the region. We do over 1,000 microvinifications a year. And we study everything from the behavior of different Malbec plants at different altitudes, whether we want to plant in calcareous soils and stony soils, what density to plant Malbec, how to vinify it, what other varieties may have potential in Argentina. We have created the first ever in the world Malbec plant selection, which is called the Catena cuttings. By planting these special plant selections at different altitudes, we can guarantee that each vineyard has even quality across the plants, concentration, richness, all the things that we look for in a high quality Malbec. We got this love for the land, this vision from my great grandfather who came to Argentina with a dream. This dream is still alive in our family. There is still so much work to do. We never feel finished, and that's actually a big part of the fun.
I think that's one of the best videos we've had.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
Laura Catena is an amazing spokeswoman for
Yeah.
Argentina at large, but I mean, especially for Catena.
Mhm.
And she is directly involved in the winemaking each and every part of the way. Well, and remember, we had the Luca Syrah.
Mhm.
That's her work too, from a different area. So these are the estates that they're talking about, the original Catena estates, but they also, she went into that region and purchased the rights to their growing. I mean, you know, with their
Well, she has one
cooperation.
that's just hers.
It's just
right?
hers, right? Yeah,
Right. I
that's
remember
called the
talking
Luca
about
one.
that.
She named it
Yes.
after her kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, that's Laura Catena as well. I mean, she's amazing. So amazing winemaker,
Yeah.
amazing person. I don't know how she gets what she gets done in a
So I
day.
was thinking that's a
So,
lot.
yeah.
Okay, so when I click, it's going to try starting over again. So
Yeah.
we shall see. Oops. Yes. There we go.
There we go. All right.
Is that the next slide?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So thank you to all of our sources, Wine Folly 750, Catena Winery. Thank you so much. Moving on. So what's the wrong one? Where's the Herodale?
I asked if that was the next one. Yeah, because I have
There
to
we
kind
go.
of slide it along.
All right. So this guy gets, obviously 90 and 92 points from multiple sources. It is one of the newer things that are coming in. I don't know how long they've been making this one. I really don't think it's been very many vintages, because the importing company that we work with to bring these in is right on top of all their wines, and they just made this available to us. So I really feel like it's only been a few vintages.
That's amazing. There are already 92 if they're just starting to do this one.
Right. It's well, what
I guess they
the
put a lot
difference
of
there.
work before they start putting it out.
Right. So they're not new vines.
Mhm.
It's just a new product that
Mhm.
they invented and then decided to produce in large enough quantity to release. They've probably been selling it within Argentina for a while. That kind of a thing would be my guess.
So do you want to go over these and then
Sure.
we'll stop the
All right.
share?
So 90 to 94. Do we consider this guy to be an outstanding wine? Superior character and style. 85 to 89. A very good wine with special qualities. Nothing wrong with that, if that were to be your case. People often think there is, but there really is nothing wrong with an 85 plus. And it depends also, it's one of those things where I say, try to keep in mind in the way, if you're going to rate it, you can rate it for yourself and your own preference. That's one way, and that's fine. But if you're trying to imagine yourself as a wine expert who's going to give a rating for everybody, you try to factor in, how does this taste versus other whites in the world versus other things you've tasted in general, to give it kind of a bump or minus versus how it measures up, not just with your preference, right? And by the way, if you guys wanted to do it, and I think it's very reasonable, if you said, look, I just want to give you a number, Jeff, based on what I felt tonight, totally do that, but do mention that. Because like my assumption, and this is because it's my own prejudice, it is when I do it, I try to factor in the bigger picture, but you don't have to do that. I mean, if you can just be like, hey, for me, this was X.
Sure.
Sure, that's
I
fine.
think that's how most lay people are going to rate, is for me, this was X.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I think if you're in the industry, if you're a small EA, if you're, if you're somehow professionally involved with it, so you have a professional opinion, that's very different from a layperson's opinion,
sure.
because you are comparing it to the hundreds, thousands of wines that you've tasted, compared with a layperson that is just comparing it with, here's what I like, here's what I don't.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But I just wanted to, I don't know. I'm not sure if I just overcomplicated. I was trying to keep it fun and like lower the stress, Like I didn't want anyone stressing out. I wanted to be like,
everyone is just saying what their own opinion is.
just say what your own opinion is. I'll give you the other stuff. That's fine.
Okay, so let's see. I've got to go scroll back here. So Kristen 91, Robin 92, Brenda 90, John 91, Laura 92.
Nice grouping.
Then we have Paula 90, Linda 98.
88.
Sorry, an 88. That's a big difference. Jerry 91, Rachel 90. Excellent white wine from Dr. Fricker.
That'll work.
And then Chesley Alvarez, 89, Julie 89. Oh, I didn't know they got here. 89, Brian and 92. Hi. Oh, Chesley wants to age it. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
exactly what you were mentioning about letting it get more caramelized. And
I think this could be a lot of fun. I mean, I know technically it would be adding a flaw, but honestly, I've had some that are absolutely delicious when you do that. It's a lot of fun.
And you get a completely, I mean, not completely, but a very different wine if you've aged it.
Oh, very
Sorry,
different.
if I'm suddenly like moving, it's because Monty's using his head to bump me because he says it's time for dinner,
No,
which it is for him, but
nothing like tall dogs.
no.
All right.
He likes to knock my hands like off the
So-
mouse and everything too.
So what are you
So-
thinking?
Yeah, for me, it would be a 91.5.
Very nice,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep.
yes. And I know, and a lot of you out there are not huge white wine drinkers, right?
I
So-
think with sushi,
Oh, yeah, with the
I would
pairing.
be up to the 92 easily.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a wine that is absolutely, here are my thoughts. All right.
Mhm.
My thoughts are, it's delicious on its own, and I love that about it.
Mhm.
I really want a food pairing with it.
Mhm.
Jake had it with a wonderful food pairing earlier this week, seafood. It blew him away, he and Jillian. I like that it's got that character to be able to
Yeah.
go into. It's not just a sip, or it's not like, oh, that's delightful. You
Mhm.
know, it's got character where you want to go with food. And yeah, I definitely give it a 90+ point on that.
Yeah, I really like I like the heaviness to it.
Mhm.
I like that I can, and I think that's what I like about reds a lot too, is that heavierness or the mouth feel about
Yeah,
it. And
yeah.
I like that about this one a lot. And I mean, I like the flavor too, but I
Yeah.
like feeling that there is, a weight to it.
Right, I get that. And in addition, it's got incredible flexibility on pairing because of that richness. Without being too rich, it keeps acidity to keep it fresh.
Mhm.
The food pairing options in this thing are insane. They're all over the place. So I just think because of that, it has some outstanding character
Mhm.
and quality. So that's why I think, to me, that's like, I see that 92 points like all day long. I get it.
Yeah.
I get exactly why he did it. And I'm not saying it'd have to be 90, but 90 to 92,
Mhm.
I think it definitely jumps up into that zone. Once you get up to 90 to 92, you're fine. You're in the zone. Like that all works really well. That's what I would do for me.
Yeah, and I think for me too, I'm glad it's blended. I don't think I would like just the Semillon. I
Mm.
like having that minerality, a little bit of
Mhm.
tartness to it.
Oh, I
mixed
agree.
with it to- mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So, but I think overall, well received.
Mhm.
It's one of those that I think we're going to be selling a lot of, and especially with food pairing requests, when people are dealing with poultry and seafood in the store, we're going to be heading in this direction a lot.
Sure, yeah.
So,
Well, I feel like, I mean, we've had a tasting that is all Catena wines. So
we have,
I think if you see Catena on it, really, you can pretty much trust it,
yeah, it's true.
you know?
That is true.
So part of that label analysis, if you see Catena,
Right.
Yes.
Well, that was kind of part of the fun too, because I know a lot of the people that are joining us here
Mhm.
were at the Catena tasting, both Catena tastings. I'm not sure if they were both, but
Mhm.
over the years. So we kind of know Catena, and this was something new to debut.
yes,
And I didn't want to wait for, a couple of months to do that again. So I
Right.
was like, let's do this. So-
yeah.
All right. So we've got a question from Paul or Linda. All
Oh,
right.
Linda, okay.
Guys. So, no, I was just curious because I was thinking to myself, I've had Semillon in blends, but I've never had it on its own.
Mhm.
So, is that something that's common or not? I've seen it in blends with things like Sauvignon Blanc, but I don't think I've ever had it by itself.
Dry. It is rare to have a dry wine that is 100% Semillon. It's not never, right? Never say never in wine, but it is much more rare to have a dry version of Semillon that is unblended. But for desserts, it is a very, a much more common thing. Sauternes or dessert wines that mimic Sauterne from Australia and that kind of a thing, that is much more common. So if you were to see something that was 100% Semillon, most likely it would be a dessert wine.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I will avoid that.
Yeah,
Me too.
it paired really well. Julie made some chicken with
Like
carrots,
a Tuscan chicken.
Oh, yeah.
and then I took your advice and got those giant shrimp and made them tonight. And both of them were a great pairing with it.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that sounds great.
Yeah, that's awesome. That sounds like it would go really well. So
Yeah, real quick. We the first couple of sips I had of this, I actually thought it was like too bold. Like there was like it was too heavy, too much. I was like, this I was like, this tastes like a really good wine that everything was turned up to 11 for like no reason. And then I thought it settled down pretty quickly. And we paired it with shrimp. And I really think as it opened up, it really became like this a really nice, drinkable, really solid wine.
Yeah, the full-bodied white wines are excellent. I loved that for this.
Yeah, that's what I appreciated about that
Well, and
full-bodied white wine.
you know
Yeah.
what I love about that point too with Robin is like, the winemakers of Bordeaux would once again say, yeah. It's like when we talk about great Cab and great Merlot and how blends can bring out extra things, and putting in some Cab Franc elevates the other factors. And we enjoy those things like we did with some of our red blends recently. And, I always picture the winemakers of Bordeaux
Because
saying,
they blend everything.
because these are their original ideas. They're like, yeah.
We've been doing this for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
You guys are finally catching on.
It's like everyone deconstructed what we did only to figure out we already had it figured out.
Well, I mean, I do like a nice single varietal.
No,
Cab, so,
I'm overstating for effect, but yeah.
Right, but I mean, there is a reason that they blend in order to bring out those different or to have the different qualities within one wine, so that you have a more complex wine. Sure.
Absolutely. All right.
Okay.
So
when I share again, we're going to go through the wrong sources.
No, we're just going to jump right past that.
Okay. All right. You want to just
Yeah,
click
I
real
already
quick?
think
I'll
that
just
would-
double click.
Just zip right
There
by.
we
All
go.
right. So next week's wine, you know what? Next week's wine is for you, so you can forgive me. So
Okay.
we are going to a great big quality, not just big, Shiraz. So
So it's
Penfolds, Australian
Now we've
Shiraz.
got
We've not been to
Mediterranean.
Australia in a while.
It's been a while.
And the only time we've had Shiraz was when we did the double Syrah tasting.
Okay.
So we
right.
never did one where we put all the money toward a higher quality
Okay.
Shiraz, right?
Ooh, I'm looking forward to this.
Yes. Well, look at the ratings. I mean, they're actually what was.
I think it's our highest rated wine that we've had for the
Mm,
virtual.
It might be. What reminds us here? Powerful, bold, but not overripe. Red is definitely a winner. The critics have not been sparing in their praise. Let's see what you think, right? Because look at those numbers.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at, okay, obviously you have to do things other than just steak when we do reds, but
Right.
I mean, to compete with or not to compete with, but to be with Gorgonzola, which is a big flavor.
Yes. Oh no, it's a big one.
Yeah.
It's a big, powerful
Oh,
red.
yes.
There is no doubt. Yeah. This will be the happy place for you, Julie, Linda, Linda,
Yeah.
Brenda. Like, let me go right down the list.
Yeah. Yeah, this sounds
It's
so
like
just
double Linda's on that, right?
Brian's gonna skip next week.
Yeah. He will like it too. Smoked eggplant, I think, by the way, would be amazing with that.
You
So,
cooking that?
I can't smoke. I have to have Deadbeat do it.
Oh,
for me.
true. Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
See, everybody needs a smoker. I keep trying to like push him towards a smoker.
We've never had one.
no,
Yeah, me either.
I'd like one.
Well, yeah, I just threw away my grill like 3 weeks ago. So now I'm in the market right now.
Okay, well, there you go.
All right. Well,
Ready?
yep.
Okay, let me stop the share here. Do we have any last questions or comments before we stop the recording?
All right. Well, thanks for coming along. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I really do like this wine.
I do too.
And, See, you're like,
Yes, I okay. I will say that I'm always reluctant when you pick a white. But since you know what I hate, you never pick that to be on the virtual tastings, which is perfect. You always pick ones that are like,
except for
us red wine drinkers are going to still appreciate it. So
that's right.
yes.
All right.
Thank you,
Cheers.
everyone. Cheers.
Thank you all for coming.